Hey, how's it going guys? This is Dave 2D and this is my review of the HP Spectre. So this thing measures in at 10.4 millimeters. Very thin. They're actually marketing it as the thinnest laptop on the market right now, which sounds really cool on paper, but super thin laptops are often underpowered or improperly cooled, sometimes both. But HP says this one's a little bit different. The top surface is aluminum with that new minimal looking HP logo in that gold or copper color, depending on how you look at it. The bottom surface is carbon fiber. It feels pretty durable and it doesn't have a lot of material flex like the LG Gram did. To open the bottom, you peel off the top and bottom rubber strips and then you remove some screws. There's 8 gigs of RAM, which is soldered on, you can't replace that, but there's a 256 gig drive. It's got okay speeds, but if you want to, you can easily replace it. At the back of the laptop is a metal bar in that flashy gold color. The Spectre uses a piston hinge for the screen. It looks kind of cool, and the hinge itself feels very solid, but there's a bit of play on the screen when it's open. It's mild, and it doesn't bother me when I'm using it, but it is there. Build quality everywhere else is pretty good. The screen and the chassis have some flex, but it's expected for a device this thin, but nothing feels cheap or flimsy. All the surfaces on this laptop are prone to smudges and fingerprints, especially that gold segment, but fortunately they give you a sleeve to carry the laptop in. On the back is where you'll find 3 USB-C ports, 2 of which are capable of Thunderbolt 3, and lastly, an audio jack. It also comes with a USB-A adapter, but that's it for ports. It's a pretty lean laptop. Opening it up, we have aluminum on the inside surface. The keyboard is really nice. 1.3 millimeters of travel, good backlighting, and a very nice response when you're typing. It's actually one of the better keyboards I've used in an Ultrabook, which is so weird because it's so thin. The glass trackpad is okay. It's a lot smaller than I'd like, but it's still a usable size. Tracking is okay, but there's an issue where my cursor would often skip while I was left clicking. Super annoying, but I really think it's a software thing that they can patch up. The speakers look cool and they are B&O branded, but they sound mediocre. It has very little bass and the max volume is kind of low. If you need your Ultrabook to have excellent speakers, this isn't the one for you. The IPS panel is 1080p and has Gorilla Glass covering it, but it's not a touchscreen despite that glossy finish. It's bright at 310 nits, vibrant colors with excellent viewing angles, and the color accuracy is also respectable. They did a great job on the screen, and up top there's a 720p webcam. It looks okay. When I first saw pictures of the Spectre, I remember thinking that this one would run super hot, but it doesn't. It uses something HP calls a hyperbaric cooling system. Fancy name, but the idea is pretty simple. There's a trim around the fan, and when the bottom panel is on, it creates a seal so that all of the air that gets sucked in has to come from the outside of the laptop. So in theory, the air pressure inside the laptop is higher and it forces the hot air out the vent. So does it work? Kind of. Light and moderate use like emails, web browsing, or even streaming videos, those won't stress the CPU very much and the fan won't even turn on. When you're doing some light Photoshop or programming, it's also no problem. There's a little bit of mild fan noise, but there's no heat issues and there's no throttling. But if you're hoping to edit videos or play heavier games on this thing, it can still do it, but it might throttle down with extended use. So light games will hit 50 to 55 frames per second at lowest graphic settings at 1080p. Moderately demanding games like Overwatch or Rainbow Six, you'll notice some throttling during gameplay. With the lowest graphic settings, you'll be at around 40 to 45 frames per second. Not amazing, but if you play for 10 or 15 minutes, it'll drop even lower. I ran some benchmarks to check this out. Temperatures are comfortable, and the fan doesn't get super loud or anything, but the CPU is being throttled. On the i7, it slows down to around 2 GHz. This doesn't happen on the XPS 13 or the Razer Blade Stealth because they're thicker and the fans are bigger. On the Spectre, the throttle isn't super bad. It's not like a crippling reduction in speed. I've seen worse, but it is noticeable. The battery lasts around 5 hours of regular use, which isn't great for an Ultrabook, but it's the trade-off for going thin. The 45-watt adapter takes a couple hours to charge the Spectre, and you can use any of the ports to charge it. Now for some reason, the AC adapter doesn't come with the flip-out prongs. Mine only had the long cable. Okay, before the Spectre came out, these were my top 2 picks for Windows Ultrabooks. The XPS 13 if you wanted narrow screen bezels and good battery life, and the Razer Blade Stealth if you wanted good value and the immediate ability to connect to the core for gaming. The HP Spectre also deserves to be on this list, but it's aimed at a more average user. It currently starts at $1,170. It has a ridiculously thin chassis with respectable build quality. The 1080p panel looks awesome, but it's not touch sensitive. The backlit keyboard is fantastic. The speakers and the trackpad are just okay. Inside, the i5 or i7 Skylake chips and the integrated graphics are great for light to moderate use, but cooling it is tough if you're video editing or playing heavier games. The 8 gigs of RAM are soldered on, the 256 gig M2 storage is replaceable. And lastly, it has a 38 watt-hour battery that gets around 5 hours of battery life. So I think they did a really good job on this laptop, but it's geared towards a user that isn't gonna slam the CPU too hard, because if you are, it's gonna throttle. Now the color scheme isn't for everyone, and the battery life isn't amazing, but if you do like gold and you want ultra portability, this is a fantastic laptop. That's the end of this video. Hope you guys liked it. Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. It's been nice. I'll see you guys next time.